Hello everybody, welcome to Oscar. Like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and drop a like on this video. I'm trying to hit 100k subscribers on this channel, and we're a little over like 3.5k away, so your subscription would be much appreciated. Also drop a like, only takes 1 second, and it makes a massive difference in how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm. So let's talk about Russell Westbrook's Clippers debut, and really that game in general, because it apparently ended up being the second highest scoring game in the history of basketball. The final score, I believe, was 176 Sacramento, 175 Clippers. And I was planning on recording this video one way or the other based on how Russ's debut went. I had no idea that this would be one of the biggest games technically of all time in this metric, if we're just talking pure scoring wise, and it definitely felt like it was going to be a high scoring game from the very onset, because both of these teams really could not miss, especially the Los Angeles Clippers. The real dichotomy, the difference between these two teams, was that Sacramento had a lot easier and a lot better of a time getting inside the paint, whether that was Sabonis or De'Aaron Fox, who finished with 40 on primarily drives. Meanwhile, the Clippers were getting jump shots, whether it was threes or mid-range shots. And I believe the Clippers finished with like 24 three-point makes. 4 players had 5 or more threes, those being Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Norman Powell, and Nicholas Batum. It was just a crazy high shooting night, and as a result, Russell Westbrook ended up racking up 14 assists. Now, he did have 7 turnovers, and I didn't even realize his turnovers were actually that prevalent. I didn't realize he had that many. But, you know, that said, I did think that overall Russell Westbrook had quite a good game for the Clippers. And really, the main thing that I want to talk about, the main thing that I want to highlight, is just how much it felt correct, how much it felt like a good fit, how much it felt like it just made sense to actually have Russell Westbrook on the floor. And that's the problem that existed with him on the Lakers, especially this year. I mean, not necessarily especially this year, but as their guard depth just got a little bit better, like Patrick Beverley, Lonnie Walker. I realized Patrick wasn't good to start, but he started being better later. There were a lot of times where I'm just like, you only have Russell Westbrook on the floor because he makes $48 million. That's the only reason he's here. Other than a perceived obligation to play Russell Westbrook, there is no actual reason to have him in the rotation with the construction that this Lakers roster has. Or if he's in the rotation, it should be to a much lesser extent. He definitely shouldn't be closing games. Sorry if you heard that doorbell. My food's being delivered. I am too self-conscious to actually go up to them and grab it. They're going to leave it at the door. Anyways, it just made sense. The fit was there. It looked like Russ had a role, and when Russ sat, it felt like something was missing for this Clippers team. And that is really significant in terms of both what that means for the Clippers this year and what that means for the staying power of Russell Westbrook, because a lot of people have argued for these last 2 years when he was on the Lakers that it really came down to fit, and that Russ wasn't even that much worse than he was in, let's say, Washington, when he averaged like 25, 13, and 13 after the All-Star break. They argued it was fit, and that was the pure reason why Russ wasn't what he used to be. I still disagree with that. I still wouldn't go as far as to say that Russ has not gotten worse over the last couple of years. I just think he has, and the high turnovers in this one, the couple of missed layups, it was definitely there, but because the fit just is so much more significantly there, the good parts of Russ stand out more, and the bad parts of Russ are less significant. When you have Norman Powell, Nicholas Batum, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, all elite, really good three-point shooters, especially 3 of those guys, because Nick is a good percentage low-volume guy typically, although he got 10 threes up in this game. But if you have all those shooters out there, I think Russ feels less inclined to take jump shots. Like, he took, I believe, 3, maybe there was a 4th one that I missed, but I think 3 threes in total in this one. One of them I disagreed with, and I was like, shouldn't have taken that. It was a pull-up early into the shot clock. You know, Russ should know better than that. He clearly doesn't. He never has, but he should. But the other 2 threes he took were catch and shoots in the corner. One of them missed, one of them hit. And as far as I'm concerned, a catch and shoot corner 3, I'm okay with Russell Westbrook taking that. If he's going to take threes, that's the 3 to take, because his numbers from the corner have always been not as bad as everywhere else, and his catch and shoot numbers have always been better than his pull-up numbers. That's typically the case for pretty much everybody, but it definitely, if Russ is going to take a 3, that's the type of 3 he should be taking. A wide open catch and shoot corner 3 ball. And that's really the only shots that he took that were not in the paint. Everything else he drove well. There were a couple where he left it short, but there was really only maybe 1 or 2 drives that I felt was ill-advised. Pretty much everything else I was like, yeah, that was the right decision. He just missed the layup. That happens sometimes. In the case of Russ, probably a little bit more than you would like it to, but in general, good shot selection, good playmaking. I will say on the playmaking front with the 14 assists, the fact that the Clippers shot as well as they did from 3, on top of a couple of those assists were like what I would call John Stockton assists, which means didn't actually create the opportunity for his teammate. He just happened to pass the ball to them, and then they shot it immediately. That's what John Stockton made an entire career of, always looking to take shots at him when I can. But there were also multiple instances where Russ did create the shot, especially for Mason Plumlee in the paint. There were a couple of really good pick and rolls. There was a pick and pop to Paul George. There was a few different drive and kicks to Norman Powell that were really, really good, and I'm sure you'll see them intermittently between the highlights here. But yeah, it was a really, really, really good playmaking game from him. I would say probably 8 to 10 of those assists he actually genuinely, seriously created. And it just made sense. The Clippers offense looked like it was missing something when he wasn't playing. And that's really all the praise in the world you can give to Russell Westbrook. And really the number one thing he needs to exist in the league further is he has to have a definable and notable and impactful role. And in this first game, it looked like he had that for the Clippers. He finished with a +3. Both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard finished with negatives. I think it was like -7 and -8. So, yeah, Russ, his impact was felt. The fit made sense. I could not really have a more glowing review for Russell Westbrook after this first game. To talk about the game in general, just a little bit at the end here, because I was primarily focused on Russell Westbrook. There was really no defense being played here by either side. You don't score 170 points each with defense being played, even if it does go into 2 overtimes. So there is that. But, like I said, it was different ways of doing it. The Kings shot really well from 3 and shot a good amount of them, but they got more paint touches. Meanwhile, the Clippers, whether it was 3 or mid-range, it was just jump shot after jump shot after jump shot, and they did not miss. If I was going to levy any criticism on the Clippers, it would be that volume of jump shots, the percentage of shots that are not in the paint, I got to imagine they're towards the bottom of the league in paint points. Did not help that Zubats did not play in this game. He can help them in that department. And honestly, if Zubats played, probably the difference maker in this game, because Mason Plumlee is supposed to be a backup center, and he did his job fine, but not ideal for him to be playing as many minutes as he did. I also have to mention Eric Gordon. There's just so much freaking shooting on this team. Like, good Lord. Eric Gordon was cool here. I believe this was his debut and his return to the Clippers after being there in like 2011. He was cool too. Everybody did their jobs, and I think the fit of this roster makes a ton of sense. On the Kings side of things, Sabonis had a stretch in the third quarter where he looked unstoppable. But for the most part, it was De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk. Malik had over 35. I don't know what he finished with. A couple of clutch shots, couple of huge threes, a couple of really gutsy shots that he hit. He was huge for them off of the bench. And I think he's an underrated part of Sacramento's success. Sacramento is one of my favorite teams to watch in the entire league at this point. And Malik Monk consistently comes off of the bench and gives them a very noteworthy scoring punch. So yeah, I'm pretty freaking excited for this Clippers team. I also love that Sacramento Kings team. And this is just a great game. If you did not watch it, I suggest you go back and do so, because this was one of the highest. This is the second highest scoring game in NBA history, and one of the best that I have ever watched. Was quite a pleasure to do it. One of those games that reminds somebody like me who does this for a living and does it every freaking day that actually basketball is fun sometimes. Sometimes I get a little, just doing the same shit all the time. Forget that. But this reminded me, and it's nice. Anyways, that's it. Goodbye.